Greetings, Cardinals. I'm going to be showing you how to use your notes and your essay snaps to write a timed essay on the Raven. We're going to be using 3 different quotes represented by 3 different motifs, 3 different moods. Quote 1, the mood is sadness, the motif is sorrow. Quote 2, the mood is kind of a spooky, doubting confusion, and our motif is mortality. Quote 3, our mood is anger, and our motif is the Raven. We want to get started with our introduction. We've got our 3 different moods. We have a hook statement. Since the dawn of time, humanity has wondered, why are people sad? That's a question that relates to our imagery, our motifs, our mood. Through a thorough analysis of sadness, confusion, and anger in The Raven, and poem titles go in quotation marks, by Edgar Allan Poe. We will prove that because so now we need to make a big statement. We're going to come back to our thesis statement after we do our analysis, and you'll see why. Let's look at quote 1 from my quotable quotes. Vainly had I sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore. So there's our motif, sorrow, sorrow. Here's his book from which he seeks to borrow an end to his sorrow. So first, we analyze the motif of sorrow, which creates a sad mood in the poem. Period at the end of the sentence. Vainly had I sought to borrow from my book surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore. You need a page number for your citation. You're going to have to look in your text. So now, this means that the speaker was reading. What was he reading? He was reading books he's trying not to be sad, to try to feel less sadness for his, and we can kind of double quote, his lost Lenore. I don't have to cite it again because I'm re-quoting from up here. We already know where my citation came from. Let's keep going. We got quote 1 out of the way. Quote 2. Doubting, dreaming dreams. No mortal ever dared to dream before. Creating a confused, doubtful mood. So, next, we see the motif of mortality as it creates a doubtful mood. Period at the end of a sentence. Doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. Poe, you need a page number for your citation. If you want to use these quotes, you got to look them up in your book. This means that the speaker feels confused in a spooky way, that he has not felt before. That's exactly what our quote says. Period at the end of a sentence. So quote 2, we've got quote 2 out of the way. We looked at quote 1, sorrow. Quote 2, mortality. Let's take a look at quote 3, the raven. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form, right, his bird shape, his form, from out my door. Page number, if you want to use my quote, you got to look it up. This means that, all right, our third motif is the raven, and our mood is anger, frustration. Our speaker is fed up. So lastly, the recurring motif of the raven itself manifests anger! Exclamation point. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from out my door. This means that the speaker is frustrated and mad that the raven will not leave him alone. Why does he want to be alone? The raven's beak is in his heart. Está clavado. Right? The raven's beak is in his heart, piercing his poor, broken heart because he misses Lenore. He just wants to be sad and sorrowful for Lenore, like we know from the beginning, right? He just wants to be sad for Lenore here, but the raven keeps getting in the way and being like, no, I'm going to mess with you. So, lastly, the recurring motif of the raven the recurring motif of the raven itself manifests anger. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from out my door. This means that the speaker is frustrated and mad that the raven will not leave him alone. Why? To feel sad and heartbroken for Lenore. So now we see that, okay, now we need a thesis. What did we prove with our three things, tone and mood? We see that the speaker is mad at the raven. Why? Because he wants to be alone, to be heartbroken. That's what we're going to go with. The speaker is heartbroken because Lenore has been lost. Why has she been lost? In some way no mortal ever dreamed of. To the sorrow of death. That's my interpretation. So now I need to go back and put my thesis. The speaker is heartbroken. It's a lot easier to write your thesis after you've done your analysis, because then you know what it proves. Because his love has left him and the mortal world. I put my thesis in new words to be fun. Period at the end of my sentence. His love has left him and the mortal world. Oh, so sad. So now we see that the speaker is heartbroken because Lenore has been lost to the sorrow of death. We have analyzed sadness, confusion, and anger. Overall, the text, The Raven, by Poe, reminds us to always, now we need a memorable statement. What memorable statement can we get from this poem? Well, he can't forget Lenore. He wants to just be sad. He wants to move on. He wants to feel better, right? He wants a surcease of sorrow in his little books, but he can't find it. He is always going to remember his loved ones, right? To always remember our loved ones. So let's go back and look at our essay as a whole. Keep in mind, I'm only using a pen so you can see on the video. I recommend you write using a nice erasable pencil when you do your writing. Since the dawn of time, humanity has wondered, why are people sad? Through a thorough analysis of sadness, confusion, and anger in The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, we will prove that the speaker is heartbroken because his love has left him and the mortal world. First, we analyze the motif of sorrow, which creates a sad mood in the poem. Vainly had I sought to borrow from my book surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore. This means that the speaker was reading books to try to feel less sadness for his lost Lenore. Next, we see the motif of mortality as it creates a doubtful mood. Doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. This means that the speaker feels confused in a spooky way that he has not felt before. Lastly, the recurring motif of the raven itself manifests anger. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from out my door. This means that the speaker is frustrated and mad that the raven will not leave him alone to feel sad and heartbroken for Lenore. So now we see that the speaker is heartbroken because Lenore has been lost to the sorrow of death. We have analyzed sadness, confusion, and anger. Overall, the text The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe reminds us to always remember our loved ones.